Hello, everybody. I'm Wendy Coulter, and I help CEOs unlock the hidden power of their brands. For years, business leaders have focused on marketing tactics, but what truly matters is building a strong brand. Have you experienced a hummingbird effect? Like the co-evolution of the hummingbird and the flower, this is when small innovations in branding or marketing can lead to surprisingly big results in other unrelated areas, like an increased valuation, a stronger culture, a new product development, or an operational breakthrough. I have Hummingbird's marketing strategist, Hanna Jernigan, with me again today. Hey, Hanna, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Wendy?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Nice.
Um, so it's a interesting kind of morning. We've been talking about seances and just interesting conversation today. So this should be a great episode.
Yeah.
I am so excited about today's guest. His name is Colin McIntosh from Sheets and Giggles. And we have a common friend. And Hannah, you work with a client who is connected to
Yeah.
Colin. And so this is just going to be fun to get his perspective because I've heard a little bit about his company in the past, and it just sounds like a super dynamic situation. So we're going to dive deeper into the world of brand building with Colin and see how seemingly small innovations have led to some big wins in his business. But Hannah, first, you're my researcher extraordinaire. So what do you know about Colin? What are some fun facts?
Yeah.
Colin, we might throw you off here at the
Yeah,
beginning.
I'm a little nervous how deep Hannah might have gotten ahead of time looking into me. So yeah, what are the fun facts about me?
I kept it pretty surface level just because they're really impressive things that I've seen and I've learned. But I would like to start with you guys being the shittiest company that exists.
That's right. I've actually trademarked the world's
Yeah.
shittiest sheets. Yeah.
So that's a start and it really sets the tone for I think for the rest of the podcast. But just some other things that were really impressive. You guys, what was it in May of 2018 for pre-orders? You raised close to 300,000 for
Yeah.
your, and I'm assuming that was your kickoff.
That was our Indiegogo. Yep. And we raised $284,000 in pre-orders from Indiegogo, and then 6 months later we shipped our first box.
Wow. You
Love that.
were on Good Housekeeping's list of best overall sheets, and I use that list, so I appreciate actually
I
speaking
just sent
from
them
it.
in a new set for the new
Oh,
2025 rankings. But yeah, I
so
mean it's that was really funny actually. My mom sent me a picture of her physical printed out Good Housekeeping with Sheets and Giggles circled on it, and we had won best overall sheets. And she goes, "Did you know that you won this?" I said, "Actually, no, I had no idea." They asked for a set, and we sent them a set, and they tested it, and we won, which is really cool. You know, normally companies pay for that type of stuff.
yeah.
But no, Good Housekeeping is legit. They test in secret, and they don't let you know the results till it's published.
Wow, that's actually
Great
great
job.
to know.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff industry, you guys know, marketing, it's all pay for play.
Yeah.
Not them. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of other things. If anyone looks you guys up, I'm sure they'll see it. The best temperature control was won in 2021 from the Sleep Foundation. You won first place in Denver Startup Week 2018. You were ranked 309 of the 2022 Inc. 5000 list as a fastest growing private company. So your rap sheet's pretty impressive, and I'm excited to
Right.
get to know more about it and everything. And it's also, I mean, you remember these, so it's cool to hear even that. Like you knew exactly the number. That's
Yeah, no, I know. I have like a pretty encyclopedic memory on some of this, a lot. My wife would tell me that it's not just about bed sheets in my business, but you know, I could quote dates from like the Carthaginian Empire and like the you know the which year Genghis Khan destroyed Beijing and that sort of thing. I'm like I don't know. I've always had that kind of like trap like memory, but That's so funny. What's did you find anything non-business about me? I'm curious, or just
Well,
all
I
business?
really just kind of was more impressed when I started putting everything. So I didn't get too much into your personal life. Do you want me to go dig real fast and see?
No, no,
Next,
I mean,
I think I
I'm
think
wondering
what
how much.
I saw was something that just leads me to know that you've got a great sense of humor. Um, and just the way that you ask people to, submit a betting pun in their introduction, in order for them to get a message back from you. Like I just love the personality that's coming out. So that all being said, now we get personal with you, Colin. Why don't you tell us about you and give us a couple of fun facts that no one knows about Colin
That
personally?
Well, I'm a pretty open book, so I feel like somebody's gonna know it about me at the very least, my wife, family, or close friends. But so my background is, so I'm founder and CEO of Sheets and Giggles. You guys know that. Um, I've said it so many times over the years that I mumble Sheets and Giggles. And we make sustainable eucalyptus lyocell mattresses, pillows, sheets. Everything we do is made out of trees. It's all renewable. Our pillow is stuffed with natural latex and kapok. And I've been doing this for about 7.5 years. I founded the company 3 weeks after I got laid off at 1 p.m. on a Monday from my last startup job. I have been fired or laid off 3 times in my career. I'm a terrible employee. I started Sheets and Giggles when I was 27. I graduated from Emory University in 2012 with dual majors in economics and finance with a minor in business law. And I grew up in South Florida where had a wonderful childhood, loved my family. And now I actually just moved back to Miami 2.5 months ago after 10 wonderful years in Colorado and Denver. And I'll miss Colorado like crazy. So it's a little bit about me and my background.
Awesome, Colin. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and I think the best fun fact out of all of that now is how well you maintain historical things and numbers. I want to transition into a hummingbird effect and just get that part of the show kicked off. So, can you share a specific instance in your business where seemingly small change in your company's marketing or branding strategy led to a significant and positive outcome or results in a different area of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of stories that I could tell on a small sort of micro scale. Um, Whenever we get a client or a customer who's, really upset or livid about something, um, part of the brand to me is that, the brands are just people. Brands are made up. They're make believe, right? And so I'm the person at the center of the Sheets and Giggles brand. It's the best parts of my personality without all the neuroticism and anxiety and that sort of thing. And so when, we have somebody who's really upset, I'll usually tell the customer care team, hey, don't answer them. I will answer them, right? Is my company, my brand. I want to be responsible and answer them on a one-to-one basis. And normally I send them a nice, long, detailed, non-cookie cutter email back about what the problem is and why. And I give them transparency into maybe our warehouse operations, maybe something's going on with freight, maybe we've had an increase in cost, maybe we've lost somebody on the team, whatever it might be. And I always offer them their money back and I always offer them something extra. And I I can't tell you the amount of times that that has led to new customers from that person who said, "Wow, this has been an incredible experience. Like I've never had, the CEO of a company reach out to me personally like this." And then you basically turn enemies into advocates. And I think that that's something that I've really focused on a micro level. On a macro level, something really crazy that happened is back in 2020. You guys might have seen this. I just decided all my friends had AI companies, software companies. They were all making like stuff for COVID-19 where it was like we're tracking the spread and we're visualizing the data. and we're working with the city of Denver and Colorado to, slow the spread. And I was like, damn, I just have a bed sheets company. Like what, like what can I do? And two things. One is, well, we make money. A lot of startups don't make money. We make money. So let's donate some money to the problem. So we donated 20% of our revenue for 30 days. And at that point, we were making about $200,000 a month. And so we ended up donating $40,000 to Colorado COVID-19 recovery for small businesses, retailers, shops, restaurants that couldn't stay open during the pandemic. And we also got a phone call from the city of Denver saying that we needed to isolate homeless people in shelters that were coming in with symptoms, so that way they didn't spread COVID-19 to others in the general population of the shelter. So they needed about 400 sheet sets to isolate these people in these respite motels. And so we donated every single Twin XL sheet set that we had on hand. So those were two big moments for us where we gave away tens of thousands of dollars, I think probably over $50,000 worth of cash and products. The yada, yada, yada. A few months later, the governor's office calls me. He says, hey, did you mean to donate this much money? The Broncos only donated 50 grand or, whatever it was. And you donated 40 grand. I said, yeah, I meant to. And then we got a call from Amazon and they said, hey, our PR team works with the state of Colorado. We heard that Sheets and Giggles donated $40,000 to COVID-19 relief. Is that right? I said, yeah, that's right. They named us one of 6 small businesses helping during the pandemic. Yada, yada, yada. Another 6 months go by. I get a phone call. It's from Good Morning America. And they say, hey, we heard from Amazon that you donated $40,000 to COVID-19 relief in Colorado. I said, that was 8 months ago. I was like, we did. My goodness. They said, well, we'd like you to be our small business spotlight for Black Friday 2020. And I said, yeah, sure. I would love that. So they sent a film crew out to my house. We ended up doing a great little film segment. It aired on Black Friday 2020. And then that ended up leading to I think like a $250,000 sales day for the business, which ended up being, a dramatic game changer for the company from a PR and notoriety standpoint. And on a personal note, because it was COVID-19, they couldn't send an interviewer out to Colorado to interview me. So they called me on the phone. They had a film crew out there that was a local Colorado film crew. And as the interviewer stand-in with the phone, my focal point was a girl that I had just started dating about a month prior named Madison, who I just celebrated 1 year married to. So that was all. So a lot of ripple effects from certain things,
Our first Hummingbird Effect love story.
Yeah. The long-winded story, but the hummingbird, it's not just the one thing, it's a lot of cascading effects.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And I love the Good Morning. I didn't know the Good Morning America part. I did know the Amazon part, but I didn't know the Good Morning America
I knew the Good Morning
part.
America.
Oh, okay.
I tell you what, you do one thing, and it was funny. I remember I had to fight with some of my team and other people, my advisors and stuff. They were like $40,000. You're a startup. Like you're gonna donate that much money. I said, look, I said 20%. I could have said 10%. I could have said I said 20, and we're gonna stand by our word, and that's that. And I made the donation, and the way that it came back to us was just so incredibly fulfilling. And it's just one of those things that, like, they say no good deed goes unpunished, but that was definitely one of those moments where, you feel like there is some karma in the world. So that was really cool because I didn't know what it was going to lead to, if anything, and did it with no expectation. And then 8 months later, my girlfriend's interviewing me for Good Morning America, and I'm doing a live belly flop on national TV, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. Life's pretty good.
So, talk to me about the metrics of that. I mean, crazy that you had a $250,000 day. Was that on Black Friday, or was that just after the Black Friday?
It was after, so that was afterwards. So
Okay.
when I say it led to, like, directly led to, the Black Friday itself was a great, huge day for us, right? I think we may have cracked that same number just organically, but the the sales from the show itself were like, I don't know, 10 or $20,000. It was the it was actually 2 months later, so because their team saw that segment, they have like a deals and steals team. They saw that segment, they liked the company, they liked my vibe. They reached out to me then and said, "Hey, would you wanna do like a proper like sales in January?" And so we did that in January for like New Year, New You. So it's a great question. It was one more step. So an even further butterfly effect. These things take time, you know? So it was almost a year after we made that donation. So it was like late January 2021, and we had made the donation, I think, in late March or early April 2020. So
Yeah.
takes time.
So talk about the business metrics around that and what were you able to measure, which obviously sales you could measure, but really talk about like did that change everything for the company and how did it change metrics for you going forward?
Um, did it change everything? It changed a lot. I mean, I think the main thing is that we had just done for the very first time. You know what it was, Wendy, is we basically we were raising some money, some venture capital. And the only reason we did that is because we did our first $1 million sales month in November 2020, and that was 2 years after I shipped my first box in October 2018. So we had a 2-year very meteoric rise from 0 first box to $1 million a month. And then, the question is, can you repeat that, right? Like,
Right.
is that like a flash in the pan? And because of the Good Morning America sale in January, we did repeat that. And in fact, we had a bigger month in January than we did in November. And so that being able to then tell that story of like, hey, here's what we're doing. We just did our biggest month after holiday, right? In the new year. Telling that story, I think, was really crucial to raising our financing. And, I could talk a lot about, my philosophy on venture capital and startups and that sort of thing. But that I think really enabled us at that point to go out and raise that capital um, and tell that story of like, being able to repeat that type of month.
So I want to dissect that a little bit because it ties into a lot of things that I talk to with Hummingbird clients about. You did something amazing for your community.
Yep.
You didn't necessarily have any idea that it would impact sales. You more
Mm.
than likely were hearing, it sounds like you were hearing from advisors that maybe that was not how you should be coming to the table. You shouldn't be coming that big. You are a startup. You don't have a lot of funding. Why are you making that decision? But in the end, you were able to raise more money, which means that you giving back to your community and the culture that ties to that impacted the valuation of your business, impacted things in a way that you were able to raise more. Do you agree that you were able to raise more than you would have been able to raise if you had not given back to the community?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, like, I have two thoughts on this stuff. Like, one is that this is like a lucky break in a sense, but like two is this is for like a lot of founders will tell you their story about their big break and stuff, and like it's sometimes just funny. Like sometimes they'll tell you a story and you're like, okay, I can't learn anything from that. Like that's not replicable. Like you sat next to the person who like randomly, at a music festival or whatever, who like was the lead buyer at Target and you became best friends and they put you in all this, you know what I mean? Like there's so many times where founders tell a story like that and I'm like, great, thank you. But like for me, what I liked about this is that it was like a tangible decision all around brand. And it was all around like, this is what Sheets and Giggles does. We help, give without expectation of return, and that's that Techstars ethos in Colorado is we give first. And I think that the giving first with confidence that it comes back to you creates a very like high trust society, and that's the type of society that I want to live in. So then like creating that being a part of that society that I want to live in and giving first, without any expectation of return. That's what we do with Techstars with mentorship. I give my time to so many companies, and I don't ask for equity. I don't ask for stock options. I don't ask for hourly rates. I just mentor them on their marketing, their pitching, their go-to-market strategy, their business development, and I love it. And it's so much fun to give back to the community because I wouldn't be anywhere that I am without mentorship that made that impact on me. And so I see it all as related, right? That ethos then gets put into my brain. And then one day I'm like, hey, I want to help. Here's what we're going to do. Colorado calls me, hey, can you help further? I said, absolutely. We'll give you every Twin XL unit that we have, yada, yada, yada. Year and a half later, closed $3 million, $3.25 million, and had a really successful seed round. So it's all related to being, and there's a lot of yada yada in there. And I guess the second thought about luck is, yeah, some of it's like just luck, but then I think in that case and in other cases, luck is like area under the curve when you think about time and hard work. So I think the longer time goes on and the harder you work, the greater your area under the curve for the calculus nerds among us. But yeah, so that's my other thought on it. And it's not always true. I mean, people work really hard for a really long time and may never get that moment. So I know it's not like it's just you've got to just keep at it, and hopefully something like that happens.
So do you feel like, did you have any pushback from your team at the time that you were deciding to do this? Did they have any input into it? And what kind of evolution happened with your culture and your internal team? Were there any effects in that area from this?
I didn't have any pushback from my team. My team in particular, no. My advisors, yes. Maybe my team might have raised an eyebrow, but they trust me. And one of the first things I did actually during the pandemic, as people were doing layoffs, is I made a video where I pledged that no one would lose their job because of the pandemic. At the very least, I told them that I would, take my own salary away before I took theirs away and had to let them go. So that was, I think, really galvanizing and really mentally calming for the team. And then that, as the CEO, as the leader, gives you a lot of leeway and a lot of trust in terms of doing what you think is best, and then having people line up behind you because they know that you've got their back, and so they're going to get yours. So, yeah, not a ton of pushback from the team. Yeah, not a ton.
What about, though?
I've had a pushback on them on a lot of other stuff. Not that.
What about where the team is today? Like, was there a culture shift as a result of the give back that you did? And tell me a little bit about that.
Well, there's been a huge, I don't know if there's been a culture shift as a result of that decision in particular. I think there's been a huge culture shift from COVID. We were in person in Denver, and now we're fully remote. And we have been for the last 4 or 5 years, which is crazy. I remember the last day that we had everyone in the office. It was the day that Tom Hanks got COVID. And so, or maybe it was the day before. And it was funny. Yeah, it was the day before. And I remember it was like Wednesday of that week. I remember it's the weekend before St. Patty's Day. And I just remember seeing everyone in the office. Everyone was a little on edge. I had just gotten back from a wedding a couple weeks ago. And even then, in like late February, everybody was on edge. And I just remember sending an email out to my team and to my investor group. And I just said, hey, it's probably too early. We may be jumping the gun a little bit, but we're going to go fully remote for the time being. I'll see you guys back in office hopefully next week or the week after. But for now, through the rest of the week, let's just stay remote and see how this shakes out. Sure enough, the next day, Tom Hanks got COVID and all hell broke loose. And it was just like the NBA shut down, and then the crazy thing is that people still went out for St. Patty's Day weekend. That was the crazy thing. And I was like 29 years old, and I'm like texting my friends. I'm like, don't go out. I'm like, I know I know it's fun. No, like we need to stay like this is bad. This is bad, bad. And yeah, nobody listens. And so no, there wasn't like a culture shift as a result of that, but I think that it was just a chance to reinforce the culture that I already had at the company, which is like we look after each other, we take each other's health and happiness and family life seriously. I'm not going to jeopardize your health over some bed sheets. Like don't come into the office, stay home, and I trust you to work from home. And I think that proactive nature of it, where like it wasn't just reacting to the news and like reacting to what everyone else was doing. Um, is again part of the tone that I like to set in the company to make sure that I'm being a leader that treats people the way that I want my leaders to treat me. So it's a simple rule. Everybody talks about it. Jesus, Confucius. It's not that hard.
Hannah, any thoughts here?
Was it the customers, you knew that that's why you wanted to create sheets, and then you did something nice and then they wanted to stay around? Or did you get customer, like, I don't want to say you just started a sheet business to start a sheet business, but like people want to be a part of good. We're inherently good. We want to be a part of good. You did good things and then people were attracted to it. So did you learn about your customers before you started this business, or have you learned about them along the way?
That's a really good question. I guess there's like two answers to it. One is that I have a really strong intuition for a lot of this, and a brand often is that intuition, that founder's intuition about like what do people want, why. That being said, I also have done a lot of surveys with people. What are your favorite colors for bed sheets, favorite patterns? Like, do you like deep pockets, shallow pockets, like elastic on the corners only, all the way around? I like got really granular with people about like what they like about bed sheets and what they don't like about bed sheets. And that led to us doing, the bottom left corner tag. It led to us, what our first 5 colors were when we launched. It's done a lot of our product development for us, is taking those surveys and having people contribute to it. So, I think there's both intuition. I have a really good barometer for like what people want. And I think that's just empathy, being able to put myself in other people's shoes and say, okay, how are they perceiving my website? How are they perceiving my images? How are they perceiving my ads? How are they perceiving, my value propositions and my products and the unboxing and my customer care? And some of that is just a natural thing that, you build up over time. But yeah, in terms of like why bed sheets, why I saw the niche, or like, did I think it was an opportunity? Um, that's like a longer, dumber story. But basically I started Sheets and Giggles 3 weeks after I got laid off from my last company, which was also a consumer brand. We were making a wearable device that would send out an emergency alert and live location data. So it was actually to prevent sexual assault from young women. And we all got laid off at 1 p.m. on a Monday, unfortunately, after raising a few $1 million and after launching products at physical retail and Brookstone and Target and Best Buy and that sort of thing. We got laid off because unfortunately we had a supply chain breakdown and just couldn't fulfill some of these orders, which was really tough. So as head of biz dev for that company, I felt really upset and, somewhat blindsided because I had just closed, a multi-thousand store deal, I think the day before we all got laid off. And so I decided that I wanted to start my own company. It was going to be a consumer brand to take advantage of what I had learned. And I wrote down my criteria for my company, what I was be best in the world at. I wanted a massive market, highly fragmented, no market leader, so I didn't have to chip away at somebody's lead. I wanted something that was no brand loyalty, no brand differentiation, visually or otherwise, and something where I could really zig where everybody else was zagging. And I looked at all the domains that I owned, and this is a true story, and I owned sheetsgiggles.com because I thought it'd be a funny name for a bed sheets business one day. And I thought, does this like fit my criteria? And yeah, $15 billion market, growing 10% year over year, massively fragmented, mostly traditionally physical retail, not really direct to consumer at that point in 2017. And no brand differentiation. I mean, everybody's ads and photos bored me to tears in this industry. And so for us to be able to be like the most visually and copy differentiated brand as a brand voice, was, I think, a really powerful differentiator. And we had some lightning rod ads in the early beginning, and those were all intuitive. Like my photo shoots,
Mm-hmm.
that's all intuitive, building the brand like a Jester archetype. Okay, what is the Jester archetype? What is Sheets and Giggles? What are we gonna? So like, this mental image of me in bed with two of my best friends with avocado face masks, drinking red wine. I just had that. I was
Yeah.
like, this is funny. Like, who sees three bearded guys in bed just talking, just chatting, like, so my whole philosophy is like, if it has been done before by another company, I don't want to do it. And so I really try to make my photo shoots, at least for my lifestyle photos, be very, very different than every other company.
Well, there was a lot of things you said that I wanted to touch on, but I know we're
Sorry, I am
no.
long-winded.
It was first of all, you mentioned your archetype, which is awesome, and I think that it's important, and I can see it in what you do, that you took the time to set your criteria, but also like your brand. You knew what you wanted to do and you stayed true to it rather than just writing this stuff down and be like, yeah, like we'll try to be funny if we can. You really dove into it. Did you have any instances where you've had to change along the way from what you've learned? And were you nimble enough to just say, okay, this was my original plan, it's not working, we're throwing that in the trash and going in a different direction? And how did you feel doing that?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to think of a specific story about this because I do this all the time. And part of that is because I have ADHD and I don't medicate. So for me, like, I start and stop all the time when I have a better idea or a more compelling idea. But also I had this mentality that was kind of implanted into my brain for my first job, which I got fired from. But my first job was at the world's largest hedge fund in Connecticut. This place called Bridgewater Associates, and you may have seen their CEO on TV recently, Ray Dalio, being like, "The sky is falling, and we need to stop it." He's like very worried right now about the general macro
Mhm.
situation. Um, but one of the things they taught me that I thought was a really good way to think about the world is, um, oh my gosh, goal versus task orientation. So basically, like, a lot of people, a lot of workers, get task blindness, where they start work on something and they will finish it if it kills them. They will never change course. And it's like built on sunk cost fallacy, right? It's like, I'm special. I've been doing this work. My work is special. And even if this work no longer serves the goal of the business, I'm going to continue it and I'm going to fight my boss when they tell me to stop working on that because, damn, I've already spent so much time on this.
Mhm.
People get really attached to tasks because it's like right in front of them. It's like that time. Whereas goals are like higher level thinking, like, where are we going? Why? What are we doing? And what makes sense? So I really try to emphasize with my team and with myself, goal versus task delineation, and always stay focused on the goal. And that means that you can change the task like that on a dime if you need to. And you need to be very dispassionate about changing the task if a better one comes around. Now, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, we complete the tasks that we set out to do. 10 or 20% of the time, halfway through, we'll say, actually, that's not the best way to achieve the goal. We're missing something here. We're doing it wrong. We see a new opening. We see a new opportunity. Sometimes you drop it entirely and you never pick it back up again. And so, yeah, you have to be comfortable with that.
So, do you talk about that when you're bringing new people on? Like, is that an important aspect of someone to have, or is it trainable to someone that's very type A or
I'm type B,
very
but
linear?
it is. I think that it's trainable. I think that it makes sense to you or it doesn't. And I think that people are like emotional and they're kind of rigid in the way that they're going to think about it, or they're open to, what, like, it's tied in with a lot. It's tied into fear of failure. It's tied into making mistakes. It's tied into self-worth and self-esteem. It's tied into job security, right? If I work on a lot of things and then I stop doing them and I do something else, does that mean I'm working on the wrong stuff and I'm selecting the wrong projects and my work is worthless? Doesn't mean I did a bad job. Is that what he's telling me? people are like really scarred by their ex-employers. People carry like workplace trauma with them into their next employer. And so I could tell somebody like, hey, trust me, I don't think your work is bad. I just want you to work on something else because we have limited resources and you're one of our best resources. And I don't want you to spend any more time on that. And they may hear Colin hates my work and he's going to fire me. Right. And so I really screen more for like, what will this person hear when we have a conversation about this? And I want to make sure that like I'm hiring rational, thoughtful people that are not too beat up or too scarred from their past work experiences. Although, I think some people also could use a chance of recovery sometimes,
Right.
so to speak. But I've had somebody before, quit within 3 weeks, and I was going to fire them if not, because they made like multiple mistakes on like really easy mistakes on like email marketing where like typos and stuff. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, you send me a test email. Like, this is early on. And they pulled me aside one day, like they had a meeting with me and they were like, hey, I just want you to know, like, whatever you think, like, you're never going to make me cry as my boss. So like, don't even try it. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, make you what? I was like, no, you made a typo, and like, I just don't want you to do that again. Like, and just send me all I'm asking for is a test email. And I remember when they told me you're never gonna. I was like, why would I ever want to do that? Like, what? Like, goodness, like that broke my heart. I was like, dude, you carry that with you, like from like a past employer, like somebody who wanted to make, like, that's crazy. And not crazy on crazy on whoever the past employer was that, broke this person. But, and then after I think like the fourth mistake where the button didn't work in the email, I was like writing my email to them and they were like probably sensing it. And they like just sent me an email and they were like, hey, I resign. I'm like, okay, all right, great, cool, sounds good. So.
Oh, we've never had this discussion, have we, Hannah? It is a more universal problem than you might know.
It's super
Colin.
universal. I was like 28 at the time, right? Like I didn't really,
Right.
and I had bad bosses. I mean, I had a boss fire me on a Sunday because on Friday he had said something really vulgar about, I used to be a recruiter, so I was recruiting for them, and I sent them. It's actually a terrible story. I've never told this story on air to anyone before, but it's 10 years later, so I feel like I can maybe share it. But he called my candidate a really disgusting, like, sexist name, and I basically told him, can I say go fuck yourself on your show? I don't know. But yeah, but that's
the right answer. Yeah.
I was 24 years old and I marched into his office and I was like, hey man, I don't know if you think I'm going to keep recruiting for you. This is the way you treat my candidates, but if you think that, you can go fuck yourself. And that was Friday. I left the office. I went home and I got fired that Sunday. I never heard another word from him again. And, that's what I've always done with bad bosses is like, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I'm lucky and I'm privileged and I feel the ability to do something like that. But, I'm really grateful to have been able to stand up for my values in my career multiple times. And, even at the cost of my own job. But a lot of people, America is like, what, your healthcare is tied to your job. Your 2-year-old's healthcare is tied to your job. Like, that shit will create some really bad power dynamics in office buildings. And I think that's like really poisonous for everybody's work relationship to have that power dynamic so imbalanced. It's like somebody is the key to my child's healthcare and I need to impress that person. Like, that's bad. That's a bad way to do the work relationship. And it's poison from the start.
Do you want to stay ahead with insightful tips and industry-leading knowledge to build your business value through better branding? Sign up for the Birds of Wisdom email newsletter from Hummingbird Creative Group. The newsletter is packed with expert advice and the latest trends to help you elevate your brand. Visit hummingbird-creative.com today to subscribe. Don't miss out. Join the community, and let's soar together.
Colin, you told us at the beginning that you had so many stories to tell And so I absolutely love interviewing a self-proclaimed ADHD person because we learn so much and we get to hear so many great stories in one episode. Um,
And they may
so
not even relate to each other.
and that's great because people learn from those different experiences. So you've talked about so many things. You've talked about turning enemies into advocates through writing direct emails from the founder to customers that are not happy. You talked about giving $40,000, actually over $50,000 during COVID to the community that you live and work in and care so much about, and how that helped like really grow the brand and people understand the culture of the brand. You've talked about archetypes, the Jester archetype, and how you have come into that and been true to that.
You have
You've
to know
talked
yourself. Sorry to interrupt you,
exactly
but a lot of founders, they ask me what archetype should my brand be, and then there's 12 of them, right? You guys know this.
right.
And I tell my, well, there's infinite of them, but there's 12 core ones. And I tell my friends or my founder friends or people I'm mentoring or students. I just went to Emory University and lectured at the entrepreneurship class on Thursday last week, at the business school. I tell the kids the founder's voice is the brand voice, like period. Like you have to. I cannot be a, I can be a lot of things, but like I probably would struggle with being like a sage. Maybe I feel like it's too
Right.
lofty for me. I'd probably struggle with like a caregiver. It's too serious for me, right? But I'd be a good outlaw, and I'd be I'd be a good everyman. But mostly I'm a jester, and that's been very fun for me over the course of my career to the last 7 years to just embrace that part of me. Whereas in my prior jobs, my first 5 years of my career, I had to kind of like do that thing that people do where they put on the mask of work and
Right.
like you become somebody slightly different for 8 hours a day. And that um, I realized that early on as I was like, I hate being somebody different for half my day. And so that's been the greatest gift that I've been able to give to myself is I'm just maximum Colin every day. Um, and my wife may not love it sometimes because I maximum Collins a lot. But but I the Jester archetype has been so fun for me to lean into, and I hope more people do Jester brands. Really, it's a blast. It's so fun to be
It's
creative
they're
like that.
fun to as a consumer to be a part of.
Yeah,
It's hard to do. I will say you have to be as passionate as Colin is
is
about what you're doing because you can't just be
Absolutely.
funny
how
if you're
many
not funny.
funny stand-up comedians are there? Like 12? Like comedy's hard, like really hard.
Right.
Comedy is like one of the hardest because comedy requires it. So I have a theory actually that like human beings are really good at rhythmic things, like things that have to do with the inner ear. So like you have this like evolution where we develop this really incredible rhythm. I think actually in the water before we get out of the water,
Mhm.
a lot of creatures have it, and then we have like a million years where it's just us at the campfire, right? And like you're just basically like singing, dancing, telling stories, orating, comedy, moving your body, cooking, healing, I think is very rhythmic. And so like there's these things that are rhythmic that have this cadence to them. And I think that comedy is one that we don't realize how melodic it is, but there's a certain type of tone and incantation and you're going to hit this note and then it's timing. And then there's also like an empathy piece to it is like, how are people hearing what I'm saying? And you have to understand your head in live time, what they're reacting to. So that way you can then deliver the next word exactly the way it needs to be delivered. So, um, yeah, I think that it's really hard because it's one of like the major rhythmic evolutionary things of the human brain. And like some people have that comedic rhythm, just like some people can dance and some people can sing. But like I have no rhythm musically, but all my rhythm is in oration and in comedy. And so that's what I'm best at.
So, Colin, we're gonna wrap up here, but I want to hear from you kind of at the end, how your approach to branding and marketing and these things that have happened along the way have impacted you and what you've learned and what advice you would give to another business who wants to leverage similar opportunities?
So definitely the brand along your own personality. I think that, if you're a romantic, be a romantic. If you're an everyman, be an everyman. If you're a hero, be a hero, magician, so on and so forth. Like, be yourself in your brand. And then I think one of the best tips that I realized, and this is maybe more of a tactical marketing tip, and you guys actually could probably use this for your clients, is because your brand is yourself, other people who are like yourself are going to resonate with your brand. So go write down, sit down and say, what are my favorite things that I listen to every day, every week? And write down your favorite YouTube channels, your favorite Spotify podcasts or your radio stations. Write down your favorite TV shows, write down your favorite, TikTok channels or your YouTube shorts creators or whatever. And then go reach out to all those people and say, hey, I'm a huge fan of what you put out there. I listen to you every day. I watch you every day. I sponsor journalists that I read whose work I find very important. And then I create their own landing page, right? And it's called soft hitting journalism, right? Because it's, bed sheets, so soft hitting journalism.
Love it.
And yeah, and I do that because I know that people who like the things that I like will like my brand. And so your community is out there. It looks just like you. And go find that community where you are already spending your time. And those communities will resonate very strongly with your brand. And you can create landing pages and content for them that nobody else can because you understand that creator better than any other brand understands that creator that you love.
Love it. Love it. And I also think that your openness to innovation and experimentation within the brand, the ability to change, has to really, really speak to your culture and your people. We so appreciate you coming on the show today, Colin. We learned so much. It's been a great episode and so many takeaways in so many different areas. We don't always get that many stories. So thank you so much for giving us your time this morning. It means so much. We've enjoyed exploring the Hummingbird Effect in action with you. Can you share your contact information with our listeners here, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you having me on the show. And so one other thing that we didn't even talk about is I actually have this passion project that I do called sheetsresume.com. It's not affiliated with Sheets and Giggles, but I'm the Sheets and Giggles guy. That's what they call me, the My Pillow guy, the Sheets and Giggles guy, right? So, on the internet, I've written in my spare time as a passion project some of the best, most popular resume advice in the world. My resume has been downloaded 4 million times. I know this is kind of a hard pivot to your question, but I want people out there who are listening who maybe are thinking about getting a new job or they're unemployed. This is just the last thing I want to leave them with. If you go to sheetsresume.com, I've got a ton of free resources. My resume has been downloaded millions of times. Free resume guide, template, free cover letter writer, and an AI resume builder as well if you want an easy button. But I love doing that in my spare time. Again, unmedicated ADHD. It's what I spend my nights on. And I adore helping people with the job search. This is back when I was a recruiter. I couldn't help everybody. So if you want to contact me, you can contact me through Sheets and Giggles. I'm on LinkedIn, super easy to find. Colin McIntosh. I'm not on Twitter anymore or really anywhere socially, publicly. I think that it's mind poison. And I'm really trying to do my best to untangle myself from that dopamine addiction. And then with the resume business, sheetsresume.com. If you need help on a job search, contact me. I would love to help you out. This is what gets me out of bed in the morning, which is hard on account of the sheets.
So I think lots of people would love to get in bed with you to take their resume to the next level, Colin. So thank you for that. And I had to throw one in just to make sure.
That's what I would say.
Next time I reach out, you respond, right?
Yeah. Put your resume to bed, that's what we always say. So yeah.
Put your resume to bed with Colin. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you to each of our listeners. Take what you learned today from Colin and go find your own Hummingbird Effect.
Thanks for listening to the Hummingbird Effect with Wendy Coulter. We hope you found this episode valuable. Please be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more or to work with Wendy and her team, go to hummingbird-creative.com.